Hello my friends and viewers, this time instead of some sort of a review of a new tank or for an old tank in which I am going to in which I am supposed to show you some skill and achieve 5, 6, 7 or 8 kills, or to show you that this tank is good. Instead it is going to be a rage, one might even say butthurt fields video about the Russian bias, or as I prefer to call it, Soviet bias in this game, especially in the World War II late war tanks and early Cold War tanks battle rating bracket. I am going to show you how much the American T-29 tank, for example, suffers in comparison to the overpowered, in my opinion, E-6 tank, which wasn't even made in metal. In the game there was I can recall two tanks which weren't complete till the end of the war. They are Panther 2 and the Tiger 2 variant with a 105mm cannon. Both of these tanks were removed from the game, except for those players that have managed to acquire them before they were removed. However, E6, which was only made in as a wooden scale model, for some reason was added to the game and is still in the game and even participates in summer discounts and all other types of discounts. So the developers have no problem with a non-existent tank which was only on paper being in the game, which describes itself as a relatively realistic tank simulator with only those tanks that were serially produced, or at least built and tried. I mean, experimental tanks which nevertheless were built and tested. Now I'm going to show you probably the only strong side T-29 has. It's large cannon, which kills enemies with single penetration, and three M2 Browning heavy machine guns, which are really useful for exterminating lightly armored enemies such as BTR 80. Well, unfortunately, T-29 sucks at pretty much everything else. It has a pretty long reload. However, it has 6 crewmen and 2 reloaders, which means that you can take more damage before your tank will suffer loading penalty more than most other tanks, and the 6 crewmen somewhat improve your survivability. Now I'm going to die. Well, anyway, now I'm going to stop and probably switch to the other video. At first I wanted to record several separate videos and then stick them together in Pinnacle Studio 12. However, Pinnacle Studio is pretty old and unfortunately doesn't support Full HD, and I wanted my video to be as high quality as possible, so I had decided to record those several games as a single video. Unfortunately, T-29, while it has a pretty decent turret protection, has pretty poor chassis and frontal armor protection, which means that most of the time when you get penetrated into your corpus or chassis, even from the front, you will either die or lose most of your crew, which will render your tank incapable of combat. And also, unfortunately, your main enemies are going to be insufferable, overpowered and imbalanced Soviet tanks, which for some reason are impenetrable for your huge cannon with more than 250 millimeters of penetration, especially if you use sub-caliber high velocity rounds. Well, I'm going to skip this shit. Now my crew, my teammate is going to get shot, and after that he is going to throw some smokes which will render which will make it way harder for us to spot enemies, while not really covering us from their eyes, which will eventually result in our team getting exterminated. Well, despite being obscured by smokes, I had managed to spot a Akatsa self-propelled gun and successfully destroy it. So I had managed to destroy a lightly armored enemy self-propelled gun, and now I'm going to have serious problems with a World War II Soviet tank failing to penetrate it into the frontal plate with a gun which has more than 250 millimeters of penetration, probably because of Stalinium. And of course I'm going to show you the next video. I even named it Butthurt Video 3. Well, I fucked up my attempt at killing someone with a T-29, and for some strange twist of luck I had failed to penetrate a lightly armored Leopard 1 with my huge cannon. because my round for some reason had bounced off its frontal plate. Then I picked up well, today yesterday there was a United States Independence Day, and for some time this tank, which is a Pershing with a long barreled 19 millimeter high penetration gun. It's a modification of Pershing tank with a longer barreled gun, which has way higher penetration, especially with sub-caliber high velocity armor piercing shells. And finally I had managed to score some successes on this tank, mainly because the Germans against whom I was pitted have it even worse than American tanks on that battle rating. At least, well, at least I wasn't fighting the dreaded E6 and E3, which are impenetrable from most angles. Now Allied E3 had managed to tank 2 ATGMs successfully for some weird reason. I had saved him from the enemy BMP-1, and now I'm going to show you the tank that suffers more than T-29, the Tiger II. I had tried playing on Tiger II, and I swear to you, this tank is insufferable, and especially given the fact that in the game it usually plays against post-war tanks against which it has no chance. It is slow, its armor doesn't protect from anything, and its cannon cannot penetrate post-war Soviet tanks such as E3, E6, which wasn't even made in metal, and it doesn't of course it doesn't penetrate T-10A, which is a magnificent tank found on battle rating 7.7. It's a pretty rare tank, which you however I have it in my collection, and I want to say that T-10A is a very strong tank. I had managed to get a nuke on it once. The other tank on which I had managed to get a nuke was a Puma infantry fighting vehicle before it was moved from, if I recall correctly, 8.3 to 9.3. And however, in both cases I had failed to reach the battlefield in time and drop the nuke. So what do I want to say? The Soviet tanks are overpowered, and not only on this battle rating but also on top battle ratings when you face T-80 BVM, which has those additional armor packs on the sides, which for some reason can withstand the shot of needle shot with up to 650 millimeters of penetration, which shouldn't be possible in the real life. And here on 7.0, especially after the summer sale, when you play any American tank, you face those insufferable Soviet East tanks, especially the E6, the wooden model, which was never built actually, which is impenetrable from most angles, the only place where you can penetrate E6 from the front, even with those huge American cannons, is the small gun mask part. But even then, if you penetrate gun mask, you risk destroying the enemy machine gun instead of killing everyone in the turret, how it would happen in real life when armor piercing high explosive shell explodes inside the turret. So I think when the number of E6 tanks will lower after some time after the discounts, I think it would be way easier to play T-29. However, as for now, I'm quite disappointed with this tank, and I'm quite disappointed with the fact that Soviet tanks are very overpowered in the game and the developers are not going to do anything about it. Thank you for watching my video. Like and subscribe, and please support Ukraine in whatever way you can. And if you think it is skill issue, then I welcome you to watch my T-10A video where I had managed, it is a Soviet tank of course, and on this tank I had managed to kill 8 enemies without dying. Thank you for watching, and Slava Ukraini. Goodbye.